Hey guys, and welcome back to another YouTube video. In this video I'll be going through my AFLW tips for last round and how they did, as well as going through and tipping for round 3. So before we get into the video, remember to like and subscribe, turn the notification bell on so you know when I upload, and let's get into the video. So as you can see here, another really good round for me. Let me just make this a little bit bigger. As you can see, 8 tips right, 16 total tips at the moment, 16 out of 18, and then a rank of 208 out of 16,500. We're going really well. We're 1 tip and I think about 10 margin off of first place. And as you can see with the first game here, we were 9 points out of actually getting this tip completely right. So that was a really good effort to be only 9 out, and it's really crucial at the moment considering that I'm up the top, that we get these tips, the margin pretty close as well. Then you have Gold Coast versus West Coast, and I said Gold Coast by 7. West Coast is just terrible this year. West Coast, that blew that out by, what is that? They lost by 73, so I blew that margin out that I had by 66. Thankfully, this wasn't the margin game, else that would have probably blown me out by another 100 or 200 places. Then you have Port versus Brisbane. I said Brisbane by 22, and Brisbane ended up winning by 50, so that was out by 28. And then, although it was the Swans game, and although I would obviously like the Swans to win, I knew that this was going to be a tough task against Geelong. So I picked Geelong by 25, and they ended up winning by 27, so I was 2 points off in that pick. Western Bulldogs against Hawthorn. I said Western Bulldogs by 18. I thought they'd respond, given that they were a top 8 side last year, and Hawthorn didn't look the greatest, but I mean, as in Hawthorn shouldn't be the greatest side, and Western Bulldogs should have got the job done, but Hawks look really good this year. So I just don't know what's going wrong with the Western Bulldogs. And they lost to Hawks by 7, so I got that tip wrong by 25 points. And then you have Collingwood against Freo. I said Collingwood by 19. They won by 21, so that is a 2-point game again off in the margin. And then you have the Kangas versus Carlton. This game was just not competitive, and Kangas ended up winning by 60. I had it by 26, so that is a 34-point gap. So that was not the worst tip. And then another really good tip here again. Essendon won by 12 in the end over St Kilda, and I predicted Essendon by 15, so I was 3 points off with that. So that was a really good tip there as well. So that's 3 tips that I've got within 3 points, and then another that I got 9 points off. So not the worst in the end. And then this last game just was an absolute blowout, much like the this game here and this game here. Melbourne just overran them in the second half. I believe it was something like 52 to 9 in the second half or something like that. And I predicted by 27. They won by 77, so I was 50 points off with that. But in the end, I got 8 out of 9, 75, 103, 105, 130, 130, 166, 169. 219 margin for the whole round isn't bad. 8 tips right, 219 margin. So that was a really good round, and obviously has me put at 208. And if I look at the rankings here, you'll see I'm 208 here. I'm 1 tip and an 11-point margin out of first place. And if you look at that game, and if the Western Bulldogs versus Hawks flip, I'm legitimately in like 6th or 7th place. That's how tight it is. There's only 48 teams ahead of me 46 teams ahead of me in terms of tipping one more result. So I'm really in the game here at the moment. So I'm looking good at the moment. So there's that, I guess. Now we go on to tipping for round 3, and this game is going to be a massive decider. Geelong, who did Geelong play in round 1? They played Western Bulldogs. Western Bulldogs didn't look too competitive. St Kilda played North. And then St Kilda, who did they play in round 2? St Kilda played Essendon, and Essendon have won both games, have they? No. They won both games, Essendon. Who did Essendon play in round one? Essendon played Hawthorn and won. So I have a feeling that the Kangas will win this game. And Geelong are a really good side. I just have a feeling that the Kangas are a better side at the moment. And I think the Kangas are going to win by 15 points. So I'm going to go North by 15. This could easily be the game that brings my downfall. But I guess we'll go with it. I mean, you could go Geelong, but let me just see their past results, because that could be an indicator that I need or anything to go off, because this will be the big game of the season basically for me. Let's go back to 2022. Did they play then? Let's just see. Doesn't look like they... North won by 2 points in the finals last year. Let's just see. Week 9, did they play? Let me go to teams and go to Geelong and just see if they ever played them. So they played them. They've won the last 2 encounters, North. So I think North by 15 is a fair representation. Richmond against GWS. Who did Richmond play in round 2? I thought they played someone decent. Who'd they play? Where are they? They played Adelaide and lost, and then did they win? They won against Brisbane, whereas GWS played... Who's the GWS play in round 1? They played the Swans and then Melbourne. So I think it's fair to say that Richmond are going to win this game. I don't think it will be a blowout. I think it will be relatively close, but I think Richmond will win this game by 18 points. Then you got Adelaide. I think Adelaide will win the game against Essendon. I think they'll win it relatively convincingly. As Essendon have looked alright in their first couple games, as you can see by them winning 2 of their games, 153%. I just think that Adelaide are a different beast, and I think the Marinoff Hatchard midfield would just run riot. As I don't really see, other than Prespakis, Essendon having a really strong midfield, so I think the Adelaide midfield will just win it, and I think they'll win by 25 points, especially being that it's away from Essendon's home. Then you have Melbourne against Western Bulldogs. This is like a top team against a bottom team at the moment. Western Bulldogs have played Geelong, which was a tough game, but they got smoked, and then they played Hawthorn, which they should have won. Going off last year, and they lost. Whereas these other teams are playing, West Coast Eagles terrible. Port have played, I think, Adelaide in another tough matchup. GWS have played relatively tough matchups, and I think St Kilda have played relatively tough matchups. So I think Western Bulldogs are almost what they were supposed to do in preseason. I think they're one of the worst off in the first 2 rounds. So I think Melbourne wins this game by wins it by 35 points. Then we move over to Freo versus Hawthorn. Freo should win this game. It's in Fremantle. Freo have won. Where are they? They 1-1. They won against West Coast. And who did Hawks play in round 1? Hawthorn played Essendon in round 1, and we saw the Freo beat West Coast without Bowers as well. So you got to factor that in. And they came close against Collingwood, but not really close enough. So I think Freo will win this game. I know it's going for the favourite, but I do think this will be a really close game. So I'm going to go Freo by 8 points, I think. And then you got St Kilda Port. Port will win. It is St Kilda though, and St Kilda have played against St Kilda. Where'd they go? They played against Essendon and lost. And in round 1, St Kilda lost to North, which not really can take anything into that. And we're talking about here Port Adelaide, and Port had played Adelaide as well as Brisbane, 2 really tough matchups, but they did admittedly get pretty blown out in both of the games. Do we have a previous year result? Because I do think that Port have gotten a little bit better. So let's just see if there's any result from last year. Let's just see. Is there any result from last year? They were St Kilda. St Kilda won by 2 points last year, so this one I think is actually a lot closer than what people think it is. St Kilda. This one's actually a really tough game to pick because my mind's saying that Port are gonna Port are the favourites. It seems like, but it seems like who have St Kilda played? They played Essendon and lost, and they also played North and lost, and Port played in round one, and they didn't get terribly whacked. So I think you do have to go Port in this game, but I think this is the game of one of the games of the round that's gonna flip. That has the biggest potential to flip, as you can see by the percentages. So I'm gonna go Port by 7 points. Then you have West Coast against Carlton. Carlton are going to win that game. I'm pretty confident in saying that, and I think Carlton are going to win that game by 21 points. Then you have Collingwood against Gold Coast. Gold Coast have actually looked pretty good. They played West Coast, admittedly, and they also played Carlton, which isn't the greatest set of games, but Collingwood lost to Melbourne and then beat Freo. So I think this one's a little bit closer. I am going to still tip Collingwood because they're at home, but I could see Gold Coast getting over the line, but I think Collingwood will get over the line in this game. Yes, it seems like I'm actually tipping the favourite in every single game. But I just don't... I can see a way which Gold Coast get over the line, but I think it's more this game that I'm worried about. So Collingwood to get over the line by 13 points, and then you have Brisbane versus Swans, and I think Brisbane are just going to be too much for the Swans this week. Again, tipping the favourite, and I think Brisbane get over the line by probably somewhere 23, 22 points. As I just think that the Swans, they're a good side, the Swans. They're much better than they were. If this game was last year, they probably would have lost it by 10, 11 goals. But I think they'll lose it by 3 or 4 goals. A much improved side, not the worst side in the league. And I guess that is the videos there. So if I go back to the main screen, that is the videos there. I'll save the tips there, and hopefully if we get a 9 out of 9 and a good margin, then I'll be up in probably the top 100 or so. But it is tipping the favourite, so I'm hoping that we don't see an upset. It doesn't really seem like there's too many upsets. Maybe the GWS Richmond game, the Geelong Kangaroos game, and the St Kilda Port game are the highest likelihood for an upset, but I guess we'll wait and see on that one. And yeah, so that is the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.